Today, Evan Mahoney joins us. He too has been influenced by modern Korean teachers, and he brings his own perspective on meditation, his interest in psychology, and his own experience with Saam Acupuncture. You know, East Asian medicine is a mind, body, spirit medicine. I suspect many of us have been attracted to this kind of practice because it's of interest to us. And that diversity of perspective is really the DNA of this Qiological Saam Chautauqua. We're looking to explore the various streams, the various currents of Saam practice as it's now emerging in our modern time and culture. So get ready for another perspective that just might push the edges of what you understand and think you might not. We're going to get into it here with Evan Mahoney. Evan, welcome to the Chautauqua. Take a moment, introduce yourself, and we'll get into it. I'm going to be the moderator and the monitor of the chat for this. So all y'all out there in internet land, you can interact with through us via the chat. You're welcome to ask questions. We can even bring you up into the TV studio here and ask if you like. It's great to have conversations this way. So let me know if you want to come on board here. I can get you into the TV studio. Or you can ask via the chat, and we'll be able to interact with you that way. We're going to go for 2 hours. And again, Evan, welcome. And let's get started.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Michael Max, and thank you for this Qiological platform. And what a great idea. I call it the Saam Summer Acupuncture Zoom Fest, but we'll call it Chautauqua. So Chautauqua 2024. It's an honor to be here, and I'm very excited to talk about Saam Acupuncture. So I'm Dr. Evan Mahoney, acupuncturist, private practice about 14 years now. And I'm the author of several books. I'm gonna post a link to all these books in the chat box, probably at the end of the presentation. But I just want to point to you, my number one book is called Saam Medical Meditation. And this is the story of my introduction into acupuncture and Saam Acupuncture. I was a patient about 40 plus years ago. I had the first of 2 episodes of strep throat, and that likely led to a rheumatic heart disease diagnosis. Can you hear me? Is everything okay? Check.
Everything's okay.
Okay, good. Okay,
yeah,
so
you're good. I had to fix my microphone.
Okay, so about 40 years ago, 10 years old, strep throat, and then I had it again another winter, and what I think likely developed into a rheumatic heart disease diagnosis. My symptoms took a turn for the worse at the end of my teenage years, the 20s. My skin would turn purple, my hands, fingers, nose, lips. When the weather turned cold, I would have nightmares, panic attacks. My heart would fibrillate, palpate, all kinds of irregular heartbeats. It was very disconcerting, and it really ruined the trajectory of my life. I was a fatalistic. I thought I was going to die. For 2 decades, I felt I was just minutes away from a heart attack. So I never pursued a career path. I just traveled, and my heart condition, it caused me to withdraw, as acupuncturists know. And we're going to see in a case study with Dora at the end of this presentation, heart chi, lung chi deficiency, no spirit in my voice, no power in my voice. I just withdrew from society, and my sickness progressed and got worse and worse and worse. So at a point when I was near death, I had a case of atrial fibrillation that hospitalized me. And it was at that point in my life, soon after that, I turned to acupuncture. And I began acupuncture, and within my first treatment, I started meditating on the acupuncture points that the doctor prescribed for me. And within about 2 months of these treatments, I enrolled in school. This was in Los Angeles. I went to school at Saam Acupuncture Center. And within about a year of being enrolled in school, I got to, by serendipity, I was a student of Dr. Tae Chung Chu, and he was the Saam acupuncture teacher at Saam Acupuncture Center. So my Saam acupuncture education is from Dr. Tae Chung Chu. He has an unpublished manuscript that is out there. You'd have to contact his clinic in Los Angeles at Saam Clinic, which you can contact me if you need that, but you can find it on the internet. So this book here highlights my healing experience through meditation and the application of meditation on the Saam acupuncture point prescriptions. Now, I apologize in today's presentation with the slides. There's a lot of information that's not on the slides, and I didn't put much technical details on it. There is some technical details I call the harmonized combinations, but it's very simple. I'll explain it when we start getting to the PTSD part of the presentation. But if you're interested, the technical details are in this book, harmonized combinations. Also in this book, I talk about Dr. Richard Tan, using Dr. Richard Tan's balance method for Saam application. And I have a whole chapter on headaches and Saam acupuncture point prescriptions with Dr. Richard Tan balance method. Now, my next book is The Interpretation of Dreams. This is Saam Meditation, The Interpretation of Dreams. And water, according to Carl Jung, water is the commonmost symbol in dreams. And we are going to take a look at water in dreams, particularly turmoil and danger, which of course we all know pertains to the kidneys. And then my following book is Structures of Knowledge, which features Freud, Jung, and my favorite, Dr. John Sarno. Now, has anybody heard of Dr. John Sarno? If you have, just put a check mark in the chat box. I just want to see if anybody's familiar with Dr. John Sarno. He came up with the idea of unconscious rage, and that pertains to Saam acupuncture's revolutionary rage. Oh, wow. Daniel Schulman. Hey, good to see you. You met him. That's fantastic. Look, all these people are saying, yes, good, good, good. This is outstanding. I wasn't expecting that many people to be familiar with him. So Dr. John Sarno, unconscious rage, tension myositis syndrome, but it has a close correspondence, and it's really a life-changing revelation for me, the correspondence with the gallbladder channel, revolutionary rage. So we're going to talk about that as part of the presentation. Now, the past 9 years, I've been researching on the interpretation of dreams, and this is the interpretation of dreams study, part 1. And the three levels of human needs of Saam acupuncture are truly the interpretation of dreams model. Can somebody give me a check if you're familiar with Saam acupuncture's 3 levels of human needs? Just put a check in the box there. Just want to see. Yes, another Daniel. 2 checks for Daniel. Yes, Brent. Nice to see you, Brent. Check. Awesome. This is the last second book I published, Interpretation of Dreams Study, Part 2. The survey questionnaire. I created a survey questionnaire of 76 questions pertaining to the 3 levels of human needs. And this study tests Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. I'm sure you've probably heard of Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. To me, there is a very great similarity between Maslow's hierarchy and Saam levels, 3 levels of human needs. Now, I was able to communicate with Dr. Sang-Hung Lee. I think most of us are probably familiar with him. He was in the 1980s a student of Dr. Kim, and I asked him about this, whether the 3 levels of human needs were derived from Maslow's hierarchy. And he said no. I think there's another system I'm not familiar with, but there is some similarities. So on this testing Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, there's a theory of Maslow that says if in order for a person to achieve the highest level of human needs, the self-actualization needs, they have to attain essentially satisfaction in the lower levels of human needs. So I actually was able to kind of begin a study on that. And I think the study affirmed that there's some possibilities in this theory. So I want to talk about that towards the later part of this presentation. Finally, the last book I want to introduce is a Korean historical fictional novel I wrote called Nange, of Love and Courage, which places the events in the Imjin War, Korean War of 1592. Saam, the monk Saam, may have been alive, a young boy at that time. And so you can read that. Okay, so the presentation itself. Now, I want you to all be relaxed today. This is a Saturday, and if you're a furious note taker, then I just want you to kind of sit back and close your eyes. I got a little statement I want to read, and then we're going to go into the slides. Now, I would like to do a little acupressure. Because I want to try to and attempt to do an acupressure today for PTSD so that you get the idea of the technique. And to begin, if you can all just do a little bit of acupressure on the front mu point of the kidney junkyuk, it's gallbladder 25, and you can do a clockwise rotation. And I need to take a deep breath myself. So I just want us all to take a nice deep breath. You can now, we should all be familiar with these tonification techniques. To tonify, you rotate clockwise in increments of 9, and you do it when you hold the breath and exhale. When the patient inhales, you can rotate counterclockwise. I typically would just hold off, but I'll rotate the needles. So let's take a nice deep breath, grab hold or put your hands on acupuncture, kidney front mu point, and take a nice deep breath. Rotate 9 times. I want you to bring your attention down to the kidneys. This is the first lesson of PTSD using the kidney sanjiao junkyuk. As you're holding your breath and exhaling, rotate and bring all your attention down to the kidneys. The kidneys, as we know, absorb the qi of the lung above. And we'll talk more about the PTSD presentations. Let's take another breath in. Relax, everybody. You can even close your eyes. Just bring all your attention to the kidneys. It's a Saturday afternoon. Who wants to be in school? We'll just kind of keep things relaxed for right now. Good. Just want to bring your attention there. That's the first part of the PTSD. One more breath. Hold your breath. Bring all your attention down to the kidneys. Let the qi be absorbed in the kidneys. Okay. So as you're kind of just relaxing, I want to read this statement. It's going to take about 10 minutes. So just you can close your eyes and relax. Saam Acupuncture, a cultural awareness of acupuncture and Saam Acupuncture. Saam Acupuncture is an elegant system of human health engineering, validated in clinical and subjective experience. It is a technique that can recruit the patient's and practitioner's mind. Today, this is for you, practitioners. I want to impart to you meditation that you can meditate like Saam Acupuncture. And of course, you can do this with your patients as well. The meditation I talk about is identical with the clinical application of the needles. We do the same thing in meditation as we do with the patient. So we want to recruit the patient and your mind in their own healing through meditation on the acupuncture points. And this may be a brand new idea to you that you're going to meditate on the point prescriptions of Saam Acupuncture. We should take inspiration from the Monk Saam's own meditational journey, where he discovered the mystery of qi. Because Saam meditated, we practitioners are invited to engage and identify with this medicine in a similar manner. Being thus in an intimate relationship, witnessing the truths and effects of Saam Acupuncture, we likewise introduce and invite our patients into this shared experience. Engaging our patient's mind into this healing phenomena, we can enhance the experience and effect of their healing. For those of us amazed and fascinated by the discoveries made in meditation and practice of our medicine, how can we not hold back from proclaiming of its nature and effect? Saam should capture modern cultural consciousness as much as Freud and Jung did in the 20th century. Saam offers clear, simple insights and explanations and more efficient and practical applications. Excuse me, I'm seeing the chat box there. I will remove my name tag. It appears to be distracting. Thanks for that comment. So Saam should capture modern cultural consciousness as much as Freud and Jung did in the 20th century. Saam offers clear, simple insights and explanations and more efficient practical applications into the science of the mind and health of the body, as we will see in the case of PTSD and other disorders. The mystery of acupuncture that the legendary Monk Saam discovered is in reality the mystery of Qi. He meditated on the acupuncture points and felt the healing effect of Qi. Through the 4-needle point prescriptions of Saam acupuncture, Qi is activated in the organ system for targeted, powerful healing. When a patient feels Qi in a treatment, such as pulsating, throbbing, tingling movement sensations in the body, it is always a favorable response. We as practitioners can help promote the experience of Qi in our patients through coaching them on its mystery. We can engage their minds with this medicine through the truisms of acupuncture, Tai Chi, Qigong, and the saying of teaching of acupuncture. Where the mind goes, so goes the Qi, and the meaning of cultivating your garden of Qi. Coach the patient to meditate on the acupuncture point prescriptions of Saam acupuncture, as did Monk Saam. Doing so, this is revolutionary medicine. Revolutionary because it involves the patient's mind in their own healing and gives them control of their own health. For those like myself who have meditated, discovered, and felt the mystery of Qi, how can we not be amazed that this healing practice is virtually unknown and unpracticed to all but the slightest few of people? Humanity is deprived of this great and wonderful knowledge. Even in Asia, the phenomena of Qi may not be revealed to the greatest extent. Even amongst the most experienced in meditation and meditation exercises like Tai Chi, Qigong, those who can feel Qi at the third eye or the chakras or can sense Qi across their body may only be getting a small amount of the experience. There is yet unknown to them a more powerful form that targets and directs Qi with a laser-like focus with great specificity to the organs, brain, and body. The chief points are not at the third eye or the chakras, but at the points below the elbows to the fingers and knees to the toes. It is from these distant points that the force and power of Saam acupuncture is derived from. So let us engage people's minds in this medicine. Engage your mind as well. And starting perhaps as early as this coming morning, when you wake from your dreams, you will meditate on your dream and act on your dream. Okay, so we can all open our eyes again, and I'm going to go to the slide. Ready? Michael, is that slide? Michael, there. Okay, sorry. Now it's there. Alrighty, I think that's where we want to start. Okay, so I want to introduce to you, not this slide, and I call it Saam Acupuncture's organ-centered consciousness model. So organ-centered consciousness. I know it's kind of a weird, maybe even uncomfortable thing to call something organ-centered consciousness, but I think this is a very correct and proper way to identify this new type of consciousness. This is different from what a lot of people perceive as brain-centered consciousness, which is, there's probably not a lot of people that believe consciousness is solely of the brain and in the brain. It is of the organ-centered consciousness. And it's a very kind of categorical type of consciousness. Why? Because it's along the 5-element theory of acupuncture. And now we categorize, we parse out consciousness according to the 5 organs, or the 6 organs, pericardium, Sanjiao, but the 5-element theory. And that's the beginning. So organ-centered consciousness has 4 branches. The first branch of organ-centered consciousness is the student's introduction into this medicine. Now, I have a question for you on, and if you can type in a check or yes, who got introduced to acupuncture because they were a patient of a sickness or illness? You can just type in a check or yes if you're still with me. I know somebody's gotten, yep. So I first learned of Qi when I was 32 years old on the acupuncture table during my 2nd or 3rd treatment. I said, doctor, man, and I was doing meditation and I started feeling this weird sensation of Qi. And I didn't know what it was. I said, doctor, man, I'm getting these weird sensations. And he said, oh, you're sensitive to the Qi. Okay. That was the very first time I ever heard of Qi. It was 2002. And so my question is, why did not I hear of Qi prior to 32 years of age? Why was it such a brand new concept? Who else can you go to school and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this exists. Like this idea of Qi, this energy, the 5-element theory. This is the student's introduction into acupuncture. And you'll see it in the hallways of the school when you first, and I'm sure we've all conversationally wise in the hallways, oh man, I've got liver Qi stagnation. Oh boy, I'm spleen Qi deficient. My kidneys, oh boy, oh man. We're all talking according to these organ phenomena of acupuncture. So this is the introduction into organ-centered consciousness. And I kind of advocate that this should be part of our Western cultural consciousness. So my question, I have a philosophical question here. Are we depriving humanity of a wondrous blessing if we neglect to teach or impart them of the experience of Qi, a natural phenomena that can guide human health and potential? Should feeling Qi be considered a necessary part of the human experience? Should we advocate for the human right to feel Qi? So what about that? I believe that as dry needle encroaches their malpractice into acupuncture, that Qi is going to be the thing that upholds the integrity of our profession. And I know they got a lot of respect for acupuncture. In the beginning, they were, oh, this is energy medicine. You know, that was like their dismissive attitude. But that's absolutely nothing that should be dismissed. This idea of Qi should be like taught, upheld. It's the phenomena for growth and healing. This helps people achieve their potential and health. And as we'll see with the interpretation of dreams, mental health, physical health. So that's branch number 1 of the organ-centered consciousness model. Now we move into branch number 2 and 3. And these next 2 are of Xiao Yang realm channels. I call it the Xiao Yang realm phenomena, and it is Sanjiao and gallbladder channels. The expelling wind energetic of Saam Acupuncture. Sanjiao gallbladder have an energetic function of expelling wind. Well, what does that mean in regards to consciousness? PTSD is number 1. And now this is the technical stuff that's not in the slides, but it's in the books and it's very easy. It's not just Sanjiao, it's the kidney Sanjiao. It's part of the what I call harmonized combinations. The kidney and Sanjiao are paired together, and the heart and gallbladder are paired together for this other branch. So we're going to talk about PTSD in just a moment. But this is consciousness model. Now, this is an interesting concept. You don't have to subscribe to this. It's just something interesting to think about that I've thought about. I kind of think there's a division between consciousness and unconsciousness. And I kind of subscribe that consciousness is of the kidneys. The kidneys pertain to how we self identify with ourselves. The level 2 human need is for sex. And Billy Graham, in an interview, once mentioned that young people think of sex about on an average of less than every 3 minutes. So this idea of sex cycling through our minds, I think, is of a conscious drive. And as we know, kidneys, willpower, the quality to focus, study, the longevity of health to attain what we need to attain. And, for the drive of sex is, the family and procreation. So I think this is a conscious phenomena as opposed to unconscious phenomena, which is of the heart and gallbladder. And this is where Dr. John Sarno really made me think of this, because he calls his tension myositis syndrome unconscious rage. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. But unconscious rage, as similar to Saam Acupuncture's revolutionary rage. And being unconscious, it's not like affecting the body in a physical manner like PTSD does, physical drives. It's more of our relationships. And that's where the heart comes in. And that's kind of the basis where I started formulating this heart harmonized combination. Is heart pertains level 2 need along with the kidneys. Kidneys level 2 need is sex. Heart is for relationships. And so the gallbladder revolutionary rage is about our relationships and with political systems, with spiritual entities, demonic possession, with family, friends, coworker, intractable family stress relationships. They can manifest in this level 3 and 4 branch of this organ-centered consciousness model. The last branch of what I call organ-centered consciousness is the interpretation of dreams with Saam Acupuncture's 3 levels of human needs. As far as my opinion, if you got a model of consciousness, then you should probably have some kind of interpretation of dreams explanation as part of that. So just the energetic aspects, probably familiar with this. I know Toby Daly, if he's with us here, he teaches a lot on the environmental constitutions. I appreciate his teaching very much. And so the environmental factors of Saam acupuncture, the 2 that I wanted to bring your attention, which you already did, is Sanjiao, gallbladder, down at the 2 at the bottom, outward movement of air, revolutionary rage. Toby calls this a fury. Mike Tyson kind of fury or rage, explosive energy, the gallbladder. And Sanjiao, the outward movement of air, is for draining of knowledge, and in particular to PTSD. And this is another kind of, this idea of PTSD is also what led me to the harmonized combination. So we're going to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, United States military is at the forefront of PTSD study. They've combat soldiers, accidents, threats, assaults, all kinds of things that the military has experienced. So they've been pretty well. There's some studies that I've looked at. It's called mind body, where it's the same idea as the meditation on the acupuncture points, where they do grounding meditation. They tell the soldiers to just be focused on the floor under their feet. And it's similar. I mean, we're going to be meditating here in just a moment on the kidney 7 tonification point of the kidney junk yuk. So it's a grounding technique. And PTSD, military, and let me see here. Now, okay, so just some things to look out for symptoms of diagnosis of PTSD. Reliving the event, also called re-experiencing a traumatic episode. Avoiding situations that remind you of an event. Feeling numb, feeling keyed up. we can consider PTSD a wind condition, imagined expectations of a traumatic episode that replay in the mind. One example is if you have a car accident and the next time you drive through there, you replay it in the mind that you're going to expect an accident to occur. You tense up, tighten up, and you re-expect an accident. Now, we can also have, I think PTSD is more common than even the professionals understand. I have a neighbor, she's a psychologist, and she had to advocate to her bosses that she had PTSD. And they said, no, you don't. No, you don't. And she was in the psychological therapy healing profession. And so to me, everybody has experienced PTSD, and we may experience PTSD in the clinic, and we can call it medical PTSD, where you hear your patients' trauma stories, accidents. For me, what gets me is the use of a catheter. When a patient tells me they use a catheter, I get the willies. I think I just gave all the men the willies. But maybe for women, it's a hysterectomy. Just the thought of it. And I think I gave all the women the heebie-jeebies. So you get the willies and the heebie-jeebies just from thinking of medical procedure. And, when I recognize that in the clinic and I'm listening to the patient, I'm meditating on the Sanjiao channel as I'm listening to that, because I want to expel that thought. Birth is a trauma. Yeah. I like to think that we are born in perfect health, but there's kinks that happen in our development, and we're like a crooked tree that the makeup of our ground shifts underneath us, and we twist and turn because we get kinks and traumas and everything, and we got to grow through that. There are trees that grow straight and healthy like a giant redwood. But for me, I was a tree that was grown on a cliff on an earthquake, and the ground shifted under me and I nearly died. And so I had to meditate, and I still meditate. By the way, with my meditation, I've been meditating 22 years, 5 hours a day minimum. And every day I'm still uncovering the blockages of my likely rheumatic heart disease diagnosis. Every day, even until the last hour, I was meditating, and last night and the last few days, getting great openings in my chest and, a cure finally. But even though I've been meditating, and I have definitely survived my condition, and I may have even cured my condition, but as a tree, I've probably grown into better physical health now. And who knows how long we can expect to grow if we meditate on chi. Maybe we can reach that 120-year-old lifespan that was expected of humans. And maybe we even go beyond that to that famous man who lived to be 250 years ago. So anyway, there's a lot of classes now being taught on PTSD, and I think hopefully we're all reaching the same similar conclusion. Number one is that acupuncture works great and is probably the best, most effective treatment for PTSD. And number two is that the kidneys are probably at the heart of PTSD. It is a saying of Saam medical meditation and a teaching of acupuncture that fear is a physical disease and it resides in the kidneys. And this is lesson number one that you can impart to your patients when you do this treatment. Fear is a physical disease and it resides in the kidneys. It's not in the patient's head. And you can bring your patient out of their head while still being in their body. So remember how we did the meditation on the kidney, front mu point of the kidney. This is where it may get a little awkward. I don't know if you're on board with this, but the 2 points of the kidney junk yuck, this is tonification point number 2. Where's my camera? Where's my arm? Okay, why does it go off the camera here? Okay, right here. There's kidneys, lung 8. You can take a nice deep breath. Now, I don't include the bladder as part of PTSD. So we're not talking about water phase. This is point number 2 of the kidney junk yuck. It's lung number 7 or 8. I forget right now. Forgive me. It's been 15 years since I was board tested. I forgot a lot of that technical numbers. Anyway, we all know the point. So you can acupressure on that point there. And then on kidney 7, can you all see that? Midpoint between malleolus to chin up. This is point number 1. Okay. So these 2 points are done on the left side, and we do it with the needles. And this is where I like to think of myself as a DJ at a rave, except this is a very peaceful event. We're spinning needles like a DJ is spinning records. So on the patient's breath, and we'll do another 3 breath. I need a deep breath. I probably need a drink of water here. So I hope everybody's doing okay with my presentation. Let's take a nice deep breath. Hold your breath and descend that oxygen to those kidney points, and then make a connection of the kidney points to this lung 8 point and the kidney 7 point. It's 2 legs of a triangle. And that's what we do with the patient on the left side. The left side is those 2 points. And I take a breath. I tell the patient, hold their breath. As the patient's holding their breath and as they're exhaling, we're spinning, tonifying those 2 points clockwise in increments of 9. And the patient's attention is being brought to these far, far away points out of their head. This is the first 3 breath sequence. There's no left side regardless of sex. That's correct. Actually, with my harmonized combination, it's left side for male and female. That's a technical detail I'm not going to have time to explain today. I do the yin channel on the left and the yang channels on the right. And so the first 3 breaths, I do this kidney junk yuk, tonifying the tonifying points, coaching the patient to breathe into these points, connecting their kidneys to these points, bringing them out of their head. That's the first 3 breaths. And then I do 3 more breaths, bringing their attention next to the San Jiao channel on the right side. So it's kidney junk yuk on the left and the San Jiao 4-point prescription on the right. And I bring them to San Jiao number 3 and gallbladder, where is it? There it is, gallbladder 41, here. Those 2 points on the right side. And I do a 3 breath sequence with them. Now, this is very interesting because I've coached them and I say, these points, the energy of this channel is to expel these traumatic thoughts, the replay of PTSD thoughts. And I tell them whenever they get even just a microsecond of a bad traumatic thought, to send their attention to those 2 points to expel that thought out of their mind. This is a very important. This is probably what they take home and coach. Now, one thing that's neat is when you do this, you do the breathing exercise. Take a breath in, you're tonifying clockwise 9 times on each of these points. And then as they breathe out, and what's interesting is they breathe out, you say, push that out of your mind, push it to these faraway points. And you'll hear their breathing very loud. They're pushing that thought to these faraway points. You'll see it happen. And to me, it's a great response. That means they're connected. They're bringing themselves out of their head and they're connecting to those 2 points, utilizing the energetic aspect to expel wind. So this technique is very simple. And I apologize. I think there's maybe some beginner students of Saam Acupuncture on this forum today. So maybe this is maybe slightly above your head, but it's fairly simple. I think most of us, we don't have to think too hard about the point prescriptions of what the San Jiao point prescriptions are. I think we kind of know them. We've been practicing them. So yeah, we coach the patients. Now, this is an answer to question from Patricia. Remember what Saam Acupuncture, the way I use it is we're engaging the patient's mind in their treatment. And so I definitely coach them to bring their attention to these faraway points. I coach them on the energetic of what's going on. Now, backing up, for instance, like when I do the kidney left side, I actually coach the patient. I say, you can remember a traumatic episode and see if you can feel the adrenal response in the kidneys. For instance, if you get a fright, say you're walking down the road and a dog suddenly barks at you, woof, 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 and you're like, whoa, but it's okay. You're safe. you can actually, if you're aware of it, you can feel the adrenal hormone in the kidneys. And that's what we call chi. I just simply say it's chi. Bring that to their attention. See if coach them, they can feel this energy in the kidneys. And then I coach them to send that energy to those tonification points of the kidney junction. So I'm coaching the patient big time. Now I'm also coaching them to meditate on these points and pretend like the needles are there even after the treatment's done, so that they can go home and relax and meditate on the point prescriptions. So this is my kind of philosophy of treatment. I want to give patient control over their health as much as possible. It's not just with meditation. It's about treatment of pain, where we teach our patients to stretch. I want to see patients stretch their way out of pain. So this is definitely coaching, teaching patients on these techniques. And so they can go home and meditate on this, and they can get control over their health. Now, some of the things to look out for is, I think as acupuncturists, we all have phenomenal treatments. I mean, the patient's relaxed in the room, that after the treatment, they feel like they're walking on air. And so these are all outstanding, very favorable responses. So I had a patient yesterday, brand new patient, that we identified PTSD, did this exact treatment I just described. And she felt like some weird things in the temple area, but it was okay. It wasn't pain, but it was a weird sensation. She was very comfortable and relaxed. By the way, with her, we also identified other things with PTSD. A very common PTSD symptom is exposure to cold. Patients may suddenly get cold after a PTSD, cold hands, cold feet, shortness of breath, because number one, cold is the pathogen ascribed to the kidneys. Cold can suppress kidney function, and that can interfere with the relationship between kidney below and lung above. The kidneys are not able to absorb the chi of the lung because cold is interrupting that relationship between the two organs. And then the other interrupter of lung and kidney, as far as I know or think, is stress. Stress in the middle, liver chi stagnation, can interrupt the patient's breathing for shortness of breath. So those are symptoms also to look out for: cold, shortness of breath. And she also experienced heart palpitations, which is another kidney not controlling heart because it's being suppressed by something. This young lady, she said she probably had PTSD from childhood, bad childhood experiences. Yes, cold interrupting the kidney lung, which I'm talking about particularly breathing. The kidneys absorb the chi of the lung. And it's an example of a yawn. A yawn is kind of an example of when the kidneys absorb the chi of the lung. And people with shortness of breath, they have an interrupted relationship between the kidney and lung. Does that help, Michael? Hopefully it does. Okay, so I think that's about it. With the PTSD, it's simple. It's kidney junkyuk on the left, sanjiao on the right, with the front mu points of the kidneys. You can see it in my book. Does anybody have any questions on PTSD? Okay, now we get to move on.
Any questions, so I think we can probably go ahead. I'm really curious about your revolutionary rage. It seems like it's everywhere in our society at the moment. This couldn't come at a better time.
You bet. You bet. There's many forms of it too. Just in answer to Kate Stewart's question, are those left and right instructions for both men and women? Yes. My combination is I do regardless of male or female, I'm doing the yin channels on the left and the yang channels on the right. Again, that's a lot of explaining, and I'm not going to be able to explain. How often would you give that treatment? A lot of times, this is a one-of treatment. Patients respond very well to this treatment. Again, we're giving them control. So, okay, business-wise, I'm not a fan of long-term treatment plans. I personally want to get results quickly. I want to give patients control over their health. So it's not a frequent treatment. I think it's one treatment and they may be done. If it's not a good business plan, then what do? You got to rely on referrals and your reputation. This is an opportunity, people will love the technique. I mean, if you give them control over the health, and they give an out of body experience in the treatment, they're going to love you for that. And, you know, you identify who is the influencers. There's certain patients that are going to be influencers, and you do everything you can to keep them influencing. So maybe it's going to be one successful treatment, but they can refer patients, and that's, you know, business. You know, again, we're here for the patient's good, and you know, build your business by referrals and reputation. I don't, when they meditate, do they meditate on all 4 points equally? Yes, they may, but they probably won't. They may focus on just 1 or 2 points, especially in the beginning. And it may be like with the kidney Sanjiao, the takeaway may be to coach them on meditation of the Sanjiao 2 points, because those expel that energetic wind. So anytime they get a traumatic thought, I say, remember those 2 points. This is a microsecond of a bad thought. Oh, the use of a catheter. I'm going to go meditate on those points and use the, so I wouldn't expect them to meditate on all 4 points. This is some new territory for them. So maybe 1 or 2 points is off. How do you address an ongoing traumatic event? Just exactly as we described. Again, if you can, meditation. Now, also going back cold, during the treatment with this young lady that was cold, we love to load up on warmth and heating lamps. So I doubled the heating. I had 2 heating lamps on her, and love warmth. So how do you address an ongoing traumatic episode? Maybe you got to warm the patient up as well. Warmth can be a big part of it. But again, if you can coach them in meditation, and and if it is an ongoing, and this is, Brenda, this is your question, and maybe this is where you are better than me. You can say, come on in 3 times a week. Okay. You're better at telling a patient to come in 3 times a week and have no problems doing that. And that's great. So if this is something you feel like an ongoing traumatic event, then just have them come in very frequently. Okay. So we are going to move on to unconscious rage. Dr. John Sarno and the gallbladder revolutionary rage. I'm just going to give kind of a quick synopsis of Dr. John Sarno. He was a doctor out of New York University Rehabilitative Medicine. Back in the 80s, he wrote his first book. It's called Heal Your Back Pain. And it's actually a psychological explanation of why some people get back pain. And thanks, Michael. A psychological explanation of why some people get back pain. And so he identifies certain people that are susceptible to this unconscious phenomena. He identifies successful people, high achieving people, do-gooders, people that take on a lot of responsibilities. They're susceptible to this psychological conflict. Now, there's a psychological conflict between the ego and the id. The id part of the brain represents the unconscious part of the brain, the primitive part of the brain, while the ego dominates everything we want to achieve in our life and do for our life to make us successful. So there's a conflict. Life-changing responsibilities will trigger this. Getting married, having a child, taking on a new job. The new mother has a child. Society expects her to take care of the baby, raise the baby. But the id part of her brain is saying, I don't want to do this. I hate the baby. I want to abandon the baby. And the ego's, my God, if I was to do that, I would go to jail. It would destroy my life, my reputation. So as a form of repression, Dr. Sarno says that the ego in his first book triggers back pain of such a severity that it forms a repression of these dangerous unconscious thoughts in the id. And he calls that unconscious rage and anger. And again, it's responsibility, life-changing responsibilities, new job, new career, marriage, childhood, caring for your parents, can trigger unconscious rage. So I think that's what I wanted to say. But how did he come up with this idea? Back in the 80s, the MRI was scanning all kinds of lumbar, back, disc herniation problems, new kind of everybody was being diagnosed with a bulging disc. And he saw that 70% of the population has a form of a bulging disc, but not nearly that many people have any symptoms associated with these disc problems. In other words, we can have a bulging disc or stenosis and be completely fine. There's no symptoms, no signs, no nothing. I consider bulging disc to be a normal abnormality of the spine. The spine is a very resilient structure. It can take a lot of abuse. I know myself, I have an 8 millimeter bulging disc in my spine, but I don't have any pain. So that's why he started to think, well, I don't think it's disc problem. Many people have it, but then he started exploring the psychological reason of why some people get back pain. And in my own experience with back pain, I hit all the check marks, got married, started my internship at Saam Acupuncture Center. The week before I started, I developed my first episode of sciatica. This was within 6 months of getting married. I was living on the beach in Venice, California. We had to move. And if you don't know Venice at that time, back in the 2000s, it's like the playground of the id, the unconscious. And I guess I was upset at having to leave there. So I got back pain, and I can admit I had unconscious rage. And the doctor I studied, Dr. Hyung-Suk Choi, he's my teacher for kinetic acupuncture. He actually gave me Dr. John Sarna's book and said, read this. And I looked at it and I said, this is nothing. It's not going to work. But actually, I subscribed to Dr. John Sarno. Now, it's great. Dr. Sarno explains how you can get in back pain, but how you get out of back pain is still the challenge. Now, another thing I love about Dr. John Sarno, and you're going to find this, you can compliment your patient on this, and your patients are going to identify with it. You can say, you're a high achieving, successful person. You're a do-gooder. You take on a lot of responsibilities, and your patient's going to be nodding their head. Yep, that's me. That's me. And so they can, and what's also great is this can be a very good introduction into understanding unconsciousness or consciousness. This may be kind of how we can relate to our unconsciousness. And I thank Dr. Sarno for calling it unconscious rage. And again, this goes back to there may be a division between unconscious and conscious. Now, other things in this realm of unconscious rage, Saam Acupuncture, Gallbladder Channel, Revolutionary Rage. In my book, Dr. Tao Chung Chu's book, he calls this revolutionary rage. Now, those of you who have studied acupuncture, have you heard it called revolutionary rage? Can you put a check mark there? Again, I know Toby teaches it as a fury. Have you heard specifically revolutionary rage? You can just put a little check or something there. But revolutionary rage is rage at political injustice, the political system, that political party. And here's where, Michael, we can compliment on today's time of politics. Definitely some revolutionary rage, but it's really actually an expression of powerlessness. It's not just an expression of powerlessness, though. And this is where I like to link the heart channel with the gallbladder, because this is about relationships. And to me, the heart being the monarch in its finest expression rules with righteousness and justice. The problem is that we people are obnoxious and we give each other stress. So there can be political injustice. Things aren't right. I'm very angry about it. But what is more common and even more dangerous is relationships amongst your family, spousal stress. And this revolutionary rage, unconscious rage, is probably the reason why the spouse is considered the number one suspect in murder. So heart pertains to relationships. There's love, but then there's conflict in relationships. We think, and this is level 2 human need. Heart pertains to level 2 human need for relationships. There's wonderful relationships, but there's also much conflict in relationships, and that generates a lot of stress. So how do we alleviate that? We do a heart gallbladder treatment, and I focus on the gallbladder energetic to expel. It's like taking the pressure off of this unconscious rage. There's a lot of pressure built up, and it is explosive fury. So we need to release this, and I release it. I call this the heart gallbladder B plus method. Now, B plus, this is very strange because I was years ago, I just messaged somebody on Facebook, messaged me, hey, this is cool, like, meditation on Saam Acupuncture. And he's from India. I don't know anything about him, but he was pretty well informed. And he forwarded me a document from Paul Kim. There's a document out there, Paul Kim, his capstone project. And he discusses like A plus, B plus, C plus, and D plus point prescriptions. Now, I never heard of that. And so, being the learner that we are, check it out. So there's somewhere out there, there's a PDF of Paul Kim's A plus, B plus, C plus, D plus Saam acupuncture point prescriptions. Unfortunately, with this Indian gentleman, he got upset with me because I was not a fundamentalist Saam. I guess I didn't meditate like the original Saam did 400 years ago. And we never talked after that. Anyway, this B plus, this is the gallbladder B plus is the one time where I include a B plus system. And the B plus system is to sedate the grandson points of the gallbladder channel. So the sedating points are the stomach 36 and gallbladder 34. So much like we just did with PTSD, I do for this unconscious rage and anger. And what you identified in patients, I had a patient that I don't do this often, like less frequent than PTSD, that's for sure. But man, I had a patient that was just right on the spot. Like she had to take care of her niece, and she was reliving the exact life she had to live when she was a child, when her mother abandoned her, and she had to take care of her sister, raise her sister as a young girl. And now her sister's daughter, she had to raise her sister's daughter. And she was like, I was going to go into the hospital, but I came here instead. So we identified this unconscious rage. I did the heart gallbladder. So heart, again, unfortunately, I don't know the link. You'll have to look up Paul Kim, Paul, Paul, Kim, Capstone Project, Saam Acupuncture. You'll have to Google it because I don't know where to find it. Although I do have it. I have the point prescriptions in my book. So if you don't find it, it's in my book, Saam Medical Meditation. I got the point prescriptions for the B plus techniques there. You can find it there. So anyway, just like we did for PTSD, we did the kidney on the left, the Sanjiao on the right. For these unconscious rage, revolutionary rage, we do the heart channel junk yolk on the left side and the heart gallbladder with these G plus points, stomach 36, GB 34 on the right side. And it's a love and courage, or love and conflict theory. I mean, there is a lot of love involved with relationships. We care for our political system. We care for our family, but yet they anger us. We get stressed from them. So this is a treatment harnessing both love and the conflict. And it's all generated in the heart and the heart energy. So now there's another thing that we need to talk about with the heart and consciousness, and it's in regards to relationships. These are the spiritual realm where there's great spiritual relationships with God, but there's also demonic evil presences. And these are manifest in this weird Shaoyang realm phenomena in the gallbladder and the heart. Dr. Daniel Kuhn, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar, the uncharted body, divided spark in the machine. He says that the heart can communicate with other people around the world, that the heartbeats coordinate with other heartbeats in the room. There's heart field interactions. So there's relationships with the heart, and that can pertain to spiritual relationships, good, but also evil. So if somebody is under a demonic spell or influence, and you have been, I've been, we can expose ourselves to bad influences, And if we want to expel, we can meditate on these points and use the gallbladder energetic function of expelling wind to expel these bad, evil influences out of our body, but harnessing love. Now, I want to replace an evil influence with a good influence. So my personal religion, I pray to my personal deity, and I replace him with the evil influences. I expel the evil, but invite the good influences. So that's what I do personally in my meditation. With the patient, you don't need to get into that, spiritual, the religious discussion if it's uncomfortable, but just invite them to a good presence in and expel the evil. So that's Dr. John Sarno's Unconscious Rage. Again, it's responsibilities, life-changing responsibilities, intractable family stress relationships, anger, political injustice that really ticks you off, and it can cause, anger that you don't want to deal with. So heart on the left, gallbladder on the right. So unfortunately, Sarah, again, the technical details, I'm not going to, the point combinations, somebody can type them in for your question there. Are heart 9 and liver 1 the heart points in this combo? Yes, that's correct, Kate. The two tonification points that we bring to our patient's attention are heart 9 and liver 1. I do those on the left side. I also do the front mu points of the heart and the gallbladder. Those front mu points are all almost in a horizontal line across the chest. And we are targeting the energy, the chi energetics, the chi stagnation in the chest. And we are moving that chi. Now, this is chi energetic treatment. We want to move chi and separate chi. With these heart energetics, there's a lot of chi stagnation, and we need to move it and separate it and spread it. And we do it with meditation, and we do it by bringing the patient's attention to these far away points. Now, yes, heart on the left. Michael, this is for you. Heart, junkyuk on the left and gallbladder on the right. And then plus the front mu of the heart and gallbladder. That's it. And then you can also throw in tongue, the third eye, that calms the spirit. But that's pretty much the point prescription. Nothing else added that I do for this, this question. Daniel, tonify GB. Yes, I don't necessarily, this is interesting. This is why I like the B plus additional point, Daniel, because we're focusing actually, if the D, I do a 6-point prescription for the gallbladder. I'll do the tonifying points of gallbladder 44, UB 66, and then I will do the sedate grandma points of large intestine 1 and gallbladder 45. But then I also add these 2 points of sedating the grandson points, which is stomach 36 and GB 34. So I like this because on the right side with this 6-point combination, 2 points are for tonifying, but actually 4 points are sedating. So actually, to me, even though it's like the gallbladder junkyuk tonifying question, it's like we're emphasizing the sedating points on it. Now, I'm not big on tonifying or sedating. I like the idea of harmonizing. Let the body adjust itself. Like and Master Byung-Sung Kim, which many of us know and admire. And of course, his system is the one system that's completely different from ours. And according, he may very well have the best Saam acupuncture technique, better than all of us, but we'll never know. You can't case study that. But he does a quenching, he often does a quenching fire. But for me, I'm not like specifically focusing on draining or, fire. I like the idea of harmonizing, circulating chi, letting the body regulate and self-adjust itself. And it's like stomach 36. Some points you can use, whether it's a tonifying or deficient excessive or deficiency condition. Some points will regulate whether it's deficient or excess. So that's kind of how I look at the harmonizing combinations, not necessarily if it's deficient or excessive. I'm not really concerned. I just want to harmonize everything. Okay, so we are going to move on. I want to start on the interpretation of dreams. Michael, can you interject just for a few minutes? I'm going to for a few seconds. I need to just take a drink of water and catch my breath.
Take a drink of water and catch your breath.
Yeah.
Good idea. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. Uh-oh. Hang on a second. My mouse has gone a little bit nuts here today. And okay. If this is off the mark and it's going to take too much time, just let me know and we'll let it go. One of the things that comes to mind with the gallbladder and the heart, very interesting here with like using love to help get rid of rage. But I also notice that they're clock opposites. I'm often very curious about the clock. I can't say I understand it well, but I think about it all the time. And I sometimes notice things like this. You're smiling as I ask this question.
Yes.
Is the clock involved in this in some way? And if so,
absolutely.
Could you elaborate a little bit?
Okay. The clock is involved big time, but it's more for me, remember how I mentioned I use Dr. Richard Tan's balance method, and I have it in this book. The balance method of Richard Tan is a way that you can channel balance an acupuncture channel to a specific location of the body. And this is where the opposite clock comes into play, where if you have a gallbladder headache, you can use the opposite side heart to target that. It's a Xiao-Yang, Xiao-Yin relationship. Now, there's 3 systems that are of their own self on the opposite clock, and the heart gallbladder is their own self, same opposite. So that actually, this is, I think it's Richard Tan's number 4 balance method. So there's no number 4 method for heart, gallbladder, pericardium, stomach, and lung, urinary bladder. They are their own opposing channel on the clock. Now, with the other channels that do have an opposing clock, then you can incorporate them. And I actually incorporate them. I'll add them as a front mu point. Now, I love this because, and I like harmonized. This is going to kind of sound bad, but I like harmonized combinations because it's a comprehensive treatment. And I do include like the front mu point of the opposite clock channel. And it's comprehensive in the sense that maybe I didn't nail the diagnosis, but since I'm using 2 channels, I have an opportunity to get it on the second channel. Maybe I didn't intend, I missed something, but maybe by chance, by luck, or by skill, you can connect it with the other channel that you're as part of the heart combinations. And so this is like, there's many ways we can channel connect using, Saam acupuncture with Richard Tan method. There's the Tai Yin, Tai Yang, Yang Ming, Tai Yin. You can connect basically 3 or 4 different channels with each channel. You can connect to 3 or 4 other channels. So to me, I like to harmonize. It's a comprehensive treatment. It provides wide coverage, and it can provide unintended benefits, that you may not have expected. I know it sounds kind of weak.
That's an interesting way to think about it. Let me make sure I have this right. You're saying for the channels that are not clock opposites. So for example, gallbladder and heart are clock opposites.
Yeah.
But for the ones that are not clock opposites, you could use a mu point on one of those combinations.
Yes.
That is a clock opposite. So you're actually bringing 3 channels in.
Yeah. Like for instance, I like the use of liver and large intestine. Now these harmonized combination, liver is Joy Yin channel and large intestine is Yang Min. The harmonized combinations are again Xiao Yin to Xiao Yang channels, Tai Yin to Tai Yang, and Joy Yin to Yang Ming channels. So if we do a liver, Joy Yin and large intestine, that's the harmonized combination, liver on the left, large intestine on the right. We can also throw in the small intestine. You could do the luo connecting point on the right side, and you can do the mu point of the small intestine. Why do I like that? Because say there's stress and liver qi stagnation and stress, and it's affecting epigastric digestion. Well, now with a liver channel treatment, you're targeting the intestines, the large intestine and the small intestine. So it gives you a lot of wide coverage.
Okay, great. We have a comment here as well. I just want to bring it up for a moment and get your thoughts. From Laura, even as gallbladder tonification, This makes a lot of sense to me, seeing so many librarian rather than Tyson types who have unconscious rage. Um, Seems like a good way to vent these and maybe bring them together.
Yeah. And when you read the news and you hear of a spouse killing another spouse, you can bet that's what's going on,
Mm.
or somebody killing their family. So, yeah, you know, librarian types can be terrifying people, I suppose.
Watch out for them. All right. I'll let you continue. Thanks for taking that question. I appreciate
Sure.
it.
My pleasure. Okay, so I would love to move on to the interpretation of dreams, because this is part of my challenge to you, is that when we wake up, if you're, waking up this very morning, that you can identify the organ that is dominant in the dream. So I'm going to take a little time. We can take another deep breath here. I have a little something to read in regards to the interpretation of dreams. So why don't we all take a nice deep breath again? A 3 breath sequence. You can meditate on the heart, gallbladder. You can choose, or kidney, sanjiao, or just kidneys, or bring it. Let's bring our breath to the kidneys. 3 breaths. Hold your breath. Tonify as you're holding the breath, spinning the needles clockwise. You're a disc jockey in a very peaceful, quiet environment. Breathing out. Breathing in, holding the breath. Spinning the needles, bringing the patient's mind to these tonification points. Breathing out, coaching them to meditate. Remember these points. When you go home and you relax, you can remember these points. Every 5 or 10 minutes during the treatment, I coach them. Do this 3 breath sequence on your own. It's when you hold your breath, and as you're exhaling, just reconnect with these points. If you forget, if your mind wanders, like any trick of meditation is to keep your focus on that third eye, or the acupuncture points in this point. Okay, so I just want to read to you a few paragraphs on the interpretation of dreams, introducing the 3 levels of human needs and the interpretation of dreams. Some of us Saam practitioners may be familiar with the 3 levels of human needs. Others may not. Dr. Sang-Hung Lee can confirm that the 3 levels are a unique feature of Saam acupuncture, perhaps with a basis similar, although not directly derived from Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. We will see the similarities to Maslow, and we will also see that Saam acupuncture has a superior demonstrable means of studying these human needs models. Why does Saam acupuncture have the 3 levels of human needs as its models? What applications can we make with it? What can we do with these 3 levels of human needs? The answer, I think, is in identifying, explaining, and differentiating constitutional patterns. And how can we thus use the 3 levels of human needs to identify constitutional patterns? It is through the interpretation of dreams. So as Saam acupuncturist, and I know this is definitely Toby Daly's strength is constitutional patterns, and we have great discussions on the Saam page on Facebook. And it is a lot of discussions are identifying constitutional patterns. And I think this is going to be one of the Qiological presentations that we're probably going to end the Chautauqua event with. I think there's going to be a constitutional pattern kind of identification thing going on. Michael, you can confirm if that's a yay or nay. But the 3 levels of human needs are expressions of dissatisfaction and satisfaction at the organ channel locations. Dissatisfaction is generally associated with the yin channels, while satisfaction is associated with the yang channels. As a general rule, this interpretation of dreams model focuses on dissatisfaction identified at the yin channels, and the treatment is to tonify those identified yin channels in order to achieve satisfaction. Tonify that which is deficient, or that which is dissatisfied. Dreams may reflect an ever-stating state or flux between satisfaction and dissatisfaction. Although in my own life and my own dream journal history, I have found my dreams to be mostly of a dissatisfying nature. Dreams can also represent a psychosomatic state of health. Dreams are an expression of reality that more than we may give them credit for. The idea of Saam Acupuncture's interpretation of dreams theory is to have our dreams move from a state of dissatisfaction to satisfaction, so that even if our wishes, this is a Sigmund Freud, I'm going to give in a moment, remain, even if our wishes are unfulfilled in the day, we still may live with contentment and our dreams may be pleasant. So, fellow practitioners and Saam enthusiasts, this is therefore your challenge to identify these levels of human needs in your own dreams, beginning in the morning tomorrow. Identify the chi energized channel represented in your dream. What will you do when you make this identification? You will act on your dream, whether in acupuncture, meditation, or contemplation. This is where you can discover for yourselves the amazing concordance of Saam theory with the reality of health, where you can witness for yourself this wonderful model of human health engineering. For 10 years, I have conducted research on the interpretation of dreams. I've created a 76-question survey questionnaire, which is the basis of those two latter books I showed you, the interpretation of dreams books. And I have found that these are true. I know I don't like to make definitive statements, but these seem to be trustworthy and reliable ideas. The interpretation of dreams according to Saam Acupuncture's 3 levels of human needs. Now, one thing, my reading's done here. One idea is that there's an expression in the dream of an organ, and that organ is chi energized. There's a lot of chi energy in that organ expressed in the dream. And that organ is what you should meditate on. There's a lot of chi there that provides a great opportunity to do acupuncture or meditate on it. Now, constitutional patterns. This is definitely, you'll find this when you start bringing this up in the clinic. You're going through your check. I think you're a lung person, but then you talk about the dream and then it's like, aha, this is confirmed. You're a lung channel person. In the survey questionnaire, I had an 81-year-old lady tell me about her childhood dreams, and she dreamed of finding coins, gold coins, silver coins. And this was almost like a lifelong theme of her dreams. Later in her older age, she dreamed of her family. But she also mentioned that as a young girl, she had traveled around a lot. And so what does that mean? Well, we're going to talk about that in a moment, but that's a lung metal, level 1 human need, dreams of coins. But anyway, she may be a lung constitutional person. Like, I didn't see her personally. She just answered these questions on the survey questionnaire, but she had patterns from a young girl through her older life that she was a lung constitutional person. Now, there's 2 dream theories I just want to bring to your attention. One is called the theory of neuroplasticity, where we dream because the neural pathways, like for instance, in regards to sight, we close our eyes, and the theory is that if the neural pathways will atrophy. So we have dreams to keep these neural pathways active to prevent atrophy. This is a neuroplasticity theory of dreams, to keep the neurons active that may be otherwise not used during the night. And then I do want to bring Sigmund Freud, his interpretation of dreams, first book published in 1903. A signature statement of Sigmund Freud is, "What is common in all these dreams is obvious. They completely satisfy wishes excited during the day, which remain unrealized. Dreams are simply an undisguisedly realization of wishes." And that's where we go back to satisfaction and dissatisfaction. We can have satisfaction and dissatisfaction with the 3 levels of human needs. Okay, so we're going to move on to the slide here. The first level of human needs is the level one need for food, money, and material possessions. This pertains to the lung and the spleen. The lung pertains to money and material possessions. The lung pertains to the establishment of a homeland. And so, for instance, this also reflects on the mortal soul that is housed in the lungs. The mortal soul is the spirit that is born at our first breath and dies at our last breath. Sadness and grief is the emotion attributed to lung, because the mortal soul recognizes the impermanence of everything. And as a form of comfort, it wants to take hold of possessions. And that's the lung. It's satisfaction or dissatisfaction of material possessions. Now, dreams of lung can be of gold coins, finding money. I bet you don't even need to answer, but I bet all of us have had dreams of coming into wealth, probably hundreds of times in our life. I know I have. And you wake up and you're like, darn, man, but that's where the goal is. Even though we don't have satisfaction with our material possessions, we can still have pleasant dreams nonetheless. So the lungs, material possessions. Now, we can have dissatisfaction, traveling around, no community, rootedlessness. So your dreams may involve traveling in strange cities, falling in love with a beautiful place. You want to live here, and you wake up and you're like, darn, being in a city, strange places, traveling a lot, being lost, wandering. Those I would identify as a strong chi energetic of lung. And you may want to meditate on the lungs upon waking. Dreams of coming into money, again, lung. Now, satisfaction. Some people have too much or over satisfying material possessions. And this can pertain to wealthy people. And I have a theory that wealthy people probably have a dream that gypsies come and appropriate their possessions and they have no control over it. So I think wealthy people may have dreams like that, where strangers just come in and take over their house, their possessions, and without any ado about anything. Now, another form of what is kind of oversatisfaction, but it's rooted in dissatisfaction, is hoarding. We all know of hoarding, and what I think it is of lonely people that have lost their community. Now, level two, heart is about relationships, but material possessions, establishment of homeland, is about the people that make up your community, one's community. And so if people die, you lose members of your community, that's going to affect the lungs. And so hoarding may be a compensation for loss of community. So that's the lung. So see if you wake up, if you dream of money, material possessions, cars, weapons, metal objects, knives, things of metal nature. And I'm going to talk about a mixture of level one and level three. Like we talk about high rises, steel, metal high rises. We'll talk about that with the level three in a moment. Then you can meditate on the lungs. Now, the other level one need is spleen for food. The spleen pertains to food, the need for food. If you have a dream of food, then meditate on the spleen. Some people are spleen constitution. Some people think of food, and it's not just food. Food is a huge responsibility. It's not just food, it's responsibility. And it's about a primal need for food, the gathering of food, and primal food insecurity that all nations of all time have had to deal with. So this goes very deep. You have a dream of food, yes, it's the spleen, but the responsibility, food pertains to the responsibility in the gathering of food and the providing of food for others. Now, how does that manifest? This will manifest if you have dreams of frustrating work task. We've all had dreams, I'm sure, where you're at work and there's just a work task that is just frustrating by all means. Now, here's a question that you can put a check mark. Who of us acupuncturists has ever had a dream of a needle spill? where you've just dreamed that needle spills like by the thousands are all around you. And you're like, my God, this is terrible. Oh my gosh. Let me just put a check mark if you've ever had a dream of a needle spill. Okay, I guess I'm the only one that's ever had a dream of a needle spill. And every once in a while I get them and they're awful. Well, this is an example of responsibility and it pertains to level 1. It could be the spleen being metal. It could be the lung. So now another thing with the spleen, and this goes into the Carl Jung. There's at the end of the slides, there's two examples, Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud. Carl Jung has a very interesting dream reported, and you can read it, when he was a child, and he descended into the earth and he came across a scary monster. So this is very interesting, I found, for children. Children often will dream of the earth and vis-a-vis the grave, or descending into basements, underground, under the bed. And so this pertains to a fear. Children are very vulnerable. And so what does the spleen do? The spleen transforms food and into muscle and flesh. And so we need food to grow big and get us out of the vulnerabilities that a young child is placed in. So maybe if you can think back, did you have dreams when you were younger of descending into scary places? Now, this is all this stuff. This is like archetypal stuff. Like maybe I personally think that archetypes are kind of stored in the spleen and are sometimes reflected through the heart because of horror movies. These are themes of horror movies, descending down in the grave, scary places. These can be an interesting phenomena of spleen and vulnerability. So I just wanted to bring that. That's not necessarily part of the human needs, but it's maybe a reflection of the spleen and level 1. Okay, we're going to move on to the level 2 human needs. The level 2 human needs are the kidney and the heart. This pertains to relationships. The need for sexual relationships pertains to the kidneys, while family, friends, spiritual relationship pertains to the heart. Now, there's a lot to talk about here. I was reading a comment. Grandma had a recurrent dream of being able to eat all the delicious food on a huge buffet, but never allowed him to be eating any of it. She was also type 2 diabetic. She lived through the Great Depression. Sounds like, yeah. She, food insecurity, the Great Depression, that's something she was impressed with, these human, like dissatisfaction in the food level 1 need. And it probably affected her whole life. Even as she was an older lady, she probably had these dreams. And it's a subject of food. So if I was treating grandma, I would be using a spleen channel treatment on her. Yeah, there's somebody there dream of forgetting to drop a check after being a server, or forgetting people with needles. Yeah, the needle dreams of acupuncturists, they get like frustrating. Okay, now, as I had mentioned, and Carl Jung mentioned before, water is the most common symbol of dreams. Now, we all know water pertains to the kidneys. Water represents danger and turbulence. And so it's not just sex with kidneys. This is about the idea of consciousness and about how we self-identify with ourselves. Some people, and I've done research on Twitter. I found a way I communicate with people on Twitter, and I've noticed that people have dreams of their appearance. Oh, I dreamed I had a nose pierce, or I colored my hair. And I think this is kind of a kidney representation of how we perceive ourselves to be. It's kind of on this theme of consciousness, how we want to be ourselves. So turbulence, danger. Now, I think if there's water in a dream, and this is a question, is the water dangerous? Is it turbulent? Or is it calm? Is it quiet? Is it pleasant? If the water is turbulent and danger, then I think the person has a lot of uncertainty and undevelopment in their levels of human needs. They're not developed and they're uncertain in their position in the world. So who would this apply to? young people in their 20s. Number one, because their kidney libido is like super strong. And number two, they haven't found their place in the world yet. So young people may be subject to dreams of turbulent water, dangerous situations, not just turbulent water, dangerous animals, wild animals being attacked by wild animals. This is the idea of the Leviathan, the chaos monster of one of those things. It's right on the tip of the tongue, and I just alchemy. It's the kind of theory of alchemy. It's how we overcome these challenges, these psychic challenges. And to me, it's rooted in the kidneys. The kidneys pertain to lifelong development, focus, quality of the brain health, the ability to focus. So I interacted with somebody that had dreams that they're driving their car and the brakes in the car don't work. And what's that sound like? It sounds like PTSD, by the way, danger to self and danger to self. Well, kidneys, they are kind of strong kidney libido, but undeveloped, uncertain of their place in the world. So I think these kind of dangerous things may be a reflection of kidney, strength of kidney, but undevelopment in their place in the three levels of human needs. So, pay attention to that. The idea with that is we need to overcome the goal of our dreams should be that water should become pleasant or even non-existent. And I think that happens the older we get. I could maybe if you've ever dreamed the water and is your dreams much more pleasant now that you're older age than they were when they're younger? I guess that would be an interesting question if anybody wants to interject on that one. I know my dreams of water have gotten more pleasant as I've gotten older. Yeah. And with heart problems that I had, nightmares were part and parcel. I had terrible dreams of teeth, fangs growing up like sharks' fangs growing in my mouth, and I would get lockjaw in my dream. That's because of my heart problems, but those were terrible. And by the way, teeth is kidneys, structure, psychosomatic. There can be psychosomatic representations that you should look out for in dreams. We'll look at that in the case study of Dora in a moment. But anyway, those are kidney dreams. Heart pertains to relationships. Remember, kidney, I think, is like threats to self, physical self, but also your self-identity, how you project yourself, how your ego, how you want to be in your life. Heart pertains to relationships. And in dreams, now this is a common theme, like we said, lungs, if you lose a member of your community, you're sad. And this is where, people dream of their dearly departed loved ones. And when they have dreams like that, and I get patients like that a lot, where I will do a heart treatment because they dream of their departed family. And the idea with that is there's a lot of love, there's a lot of chi energy in the heart at that time of the dream. And so as acupuncturists, let's utilize that strong chi energy and channel it to the heart. So relationships, for friends, family, pets. If you have a dream of your favorite pet, probably a heart-related dream, a lot of chi energy there. But also now on the bad side of relationships, conflicts, evil presences, demonic possession, there's certainly dreams that will have haunted dreams. And those, again, you can also use the heart to tonify. So we're going to move on to the last level of human needs, which is the level 3 needs, which pertain to the liver and pericardium. These are the self-actualization needs. By the way, I'll talk about that in a minute. I'm referring to Maslow. Maslow's hierarchy of human needs has correlations to each of these. I'll bring them to your attention in a moment here. The third level of human needs pertains to the liver and pericardium. The recognition of skills, talents, achievements, power, and knowledge. Liver is in the realm of performance, an athlete, a musician, or politician, wanting to perform in front of other people, while knowledge pertains to the pericardium. And by the way, Why is this? This is the energetic function of the liver and pericardium. The joy yin channel is inward movement of air. So the inward movement of air is accumulation of knowledge, the kind of astringent characteristic of liver. But it's interesting with liver, there's astringent and expansionist energy of liver. But taking things in, receiving attention from others, it's this inward energetic that brings us to the third level of human needs. So the liver, if you have a dream of a famous performer, a lot of people have dreams of their favorite musicians. Musicians are very commonly represented in people's dreams. And it's like, you're dreaming of a musician, but you're not actually dreaming of that person. You're actually dreaming that you yourself want to be the musician. This is, there's something called like an animus figure in dreams, where there's a animus figure that's maybe a repetitive character in your dream. It could be a close friend of yours that just comes up in your dream or something, and they have all the things that you don't. And this animus figure is successful and you're not. They're a performer, they're famous and you're not. But it's not that actual person you're dreaming of. It's the things you want to be that you're dreaming of. It's the energy that you're dreaming. So just because you have a dream of somebody doesn't mean like, oh man, this means something's going to happen to you. No, it's what you want for yourself. And also like, yeah, just because you have a dream that you find gold coins or something, you're not going to suddenly come into money. I don't subscribe to that at all because it's failed me about 1,000 times. But so liver level 3. Now the liver, third level of human needs, the element of wood and the characteristic of wood is expansion. The wood tree grows in girth at the trunk, digs down at branches, and it extends in leaves above the tree. And flower. To me, flower is, the liver energy is like a flower. And this pertains to levitation, flying, rising up to heights is a quality of the liver. It's almost like the liver being the eternal soul. It's like going to float away. It wants to float away. You know, I think that's kind of the energetic aspect of the liver. So you may have dreams of flying. Now, this is the basis of my book, The Interpretation of Dreams Study, Part 3, where there's the theory of Maslow. In order to achieve the highest level of human needs, you have to be grounded in your level 1 human needs. Now that the lower levels pertain to material possessions. This is physiological safety, your homeland, your food. This is social needs of Maslow, pertains to the relationships, heart, kidney. And then the top is esteem and self-actualization, liver, pericardium. So there's a correlation between Maslow and the 3 levels of human needs. According to Maslow, if somebody wants to attain their 3rd level of human needs, they have to have a solid foundation of their level 1 human needs. So I studied that in this book here, Part 2, The Interpretation of Dream Study. And I focused on a question of, when you fly in your dreams, is your flight in control? Do you have control of your flight? Is it pleasant? Do you have control? Or does it end in crashes? And so the theory is that if you have a plane that ends in crashes, you don't have self-actualization. You probably have dissatisfaction in your level 3 human needs. Now, these level 3 human needs are the accumulation of knowledge. Politicians, attorneys, you think like, they're the strong liver qualities, but they have achieved extraordinary amounts of knowledge. So, knowledge is very key to these, and knowledge gives you control of your life. So, people that, if you fly in your dreams, that's the question. Is it controlled by your flight, or do you end up in crashes? Well, maybe if you're crashing, there's some dissatisfaction of your level 3 needs. Now, on the pericardium side, the pericardium being the accumulation of knowledge, dreams of being in school. Now, surprise, surprise, college students, 75% of college students have dreams of taking quizzes, of being tested. And I'm sure all of us, because we're high achieving people and practice this wonderful knowledge-based medicine, we've had dreams of being in school, on the university grounds, being tested. So there's a lot of chi energy in the pericardium channel. Now, the pericardium is accumulation of knowledge, but it's also, I think, probably in the realm of performance, the teaching of knowledge. I think that can be a pericardium quality is the accumulation of knowledge and teaching of knowledge. So just going back now, this idea of Maslow, you have to have a strong foundation in your level 1 needs to achieve level 3 needs. And you may find dreams mixed together. Definitely you'll find like, you'll see in a dream, like they're all 3 levels of human needs are in a single dream. And you're like, which one's the most dominant one? And that may be the case with, I like the dreams of being in a high-rise building, because being in a high-rise building is you're being up in the heights, which is an expression of liver, but it's also a material possession, lung. So there's a close relationship between lung, level 1 needs, and liver. And I find this in the Bible. You will find, if you study the Bible in the book of Genesis with this study of the Pharaoh and Joseph and the Pharaoh. Joseph himself was a brother of 12 brothers, the youngest brother, and he had a dream where he was like a wheat sheath, a sheath of wheat, and there's 12 other sheaths of wheat surrounding him, and they were all bowing down to him. And he tells his brothers this dream, and they're like, are we going to serve you? You know, the dream meant that he was going to be their masters. And even his father's like, am I going to serve you? And so his brothers hate him and they abandon him. And he's a slave in Egypt, and he goes to prison, and he's in prison. And there's 2 fellow prisoners, a baker and a wine taster, and they are depressed one day. And he says, why are you depressed? And they say, oh, we've had a dream and nobody can interpret for us. And he says, tell me the dream. And so the wine taster tells him his dream, and the wine taster, the theme of the dream is serving Pharaoh wine. And the baker, there's a piece of bread. And so there's a theme of food, but there's also responsibility. Food and responsibility. And these are assistants to the Pharaoh. These are high-level positioned people in the Pharaoh's kingdom. And then you get to the Pharaoh's dream, where the Pharaoh has 2 dreams. And the first dream is seven sheaves of wheat, very healthy, fat-looking, but then another 7 sheaves of wheat, very thin and dry, and they eat up the 7 sheaves of wheat. And then his other dream was 7 fat cows that are devoured by 7 skinny, emaciated cows. And again, it's the theme of food. But in the case of Pharaoh, it's responsibility. So there's responsibility and food, and it's a person in a high power. And then another dream example in the Bible is Daniel with Nebuchadnezzar. And Nebuchadnezzar has a dream where he's either a statue, or he dreams of a 90-foot tall statue. The head is of gold. The chest is of silver. The waist is of bronze. The thighs are of steel. And then the feet are of clay. And again, these are metal objects, level 1 needs, but it's also a level 1 mixed with level 3, the power. So it's just very interesting. If you want to achieve your level 3 needs, they say you should have a foundation in your level 1 needs as well. So we can have dissatisfaction in our life, but the goal is that we actually have pleasant dreams. And the goal is to have pleasant dreams, even though we don't achieve these things in our waking life. So does anybody have any questions on this? Responsibility for food and providing family, level 1 human needs. Okay, because we're going to move into the case studies next. Okay, why don't we go into the case studies? Now, Yeah. What if you're not welcome to the club? I'm not welcome if you're not satisfied with all three levels. Well, this is something, as far as Saam acupuncture, we want to move from a place of dissatisfaction to satisfaction. And so if there's satisfaction, I'm sorry, if there's dissatisfaction, it's rooted in the yin channels. And I'm of the approach that you tonify that which is deficient, and dissatisfaction is a type of deficiency. So you would want to tonify the yin channels. So I hope that helps with your question, Eric. And, look, okay. How do you even know if you're not satisfied with all three levels? So this is your challenge, dream journal your dreams in the morning. Now, this is something I want to encourage us all in. Like, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could all journal our dreams and, keep them private if you want to keep them private. But if we could all share like what our dream journal is. And I would love to see if there is patterns or themes that are expressed, particularly like in related to seasonal, like now's the time of heart. There should be a lot of heart related dreams, relationships, and definitely there is seasonal related dream themes. And I would love to be able, like, if we could share our dreams and study if there is patterns of or patterns in dreams according to season, or maybe there's just current events that are so overwhelming that we all have dreams of personality figures or whatnot. So I think it would be a pretty fascinating study because it's a study of human nature. And do we know human nature? No, I don't believe we do, because there's no other things that Saam acupuncture is not a popular part of cultural consciousness. Honestly, nobody knows of Saam acupuncture and these wonderful things of consciousness, of giving yourself control by identifying themes in dreams or chi energy channels, meditating on them. This is something that's unknown. Now, that's a problem, being unknown. If you've ever launched a new product or invented something, it's always it's harder to launch something brand new than it is to be the third or fourth person in the market. So this is kind of like, if you are amazed with Saam as I am, and maybe going forward, you meditate and you see these things and you become amazed, maybe we should break through and make it part of our teaching and cultural consciousness. Okay, questions. We're going to go on to the case study of Carl Jung. Now, this is purely not a human needs, but a spleen level theme of Carl Jung as a young boy. And I don't really want to, you can read this. I'm not going to, my voice is shot, and I want to go to the Dora study, but you can read this. It's about, you look for the earth related dreams theme in his dream. You'll see a little bit of liver there with a green curtain or something. But to me, this is a young boy with a very spleen dominated earth dreams. So I want to go to Dora. This is very interesting because Dora is a perfect example of psychosomatic expressions in dreams. And let me get there. I'm just check here. Okay, so this is a patient of Sigmund Freud. This is really funny. I was telling Michael before, Sigmund Freud, this is a patient. He saw Dora about 12 times, and he considered this a failure of his. And he says it's because she started to develop an attraction to him. And so I guess he had to end the treatment, but he didn't figure out what was going on with her. So I thought that was kind of funny. But this is something that, as acupuncturists, I think we'll pick up on right away. So Sigmund Freud's patient, Dora, was a very famous dream case study in the early 20th century. Dora is Freud's pseudonym for her, was 18 years old when she consulted with him. Her initial complaint was aphonia, loss of voice. From later in the study, we learned the patient also presented with a cough and must have been which must have been of a persistent nature. So she had a loss of voice and a cough. It is interesting to match the physical symptoms of Dora with the 5-element pattern expressed in her dreams. Aphonia, the inability to speak, may be diagnosed by either a heart or lung qi deficient in acupuncture medicine. The tongue is the organ associated with the heart and the terminal point of the channel. The breath of the lungs powers the voice. A persistent cough may be a lung qi deficiency. So a primary hypothesis question of this dream is, are there psychosomatic correspondences with dreams? In Saam Acupuncture's 3 levels of human needs, the lungs pertain to level 1 need for material possessions, establishment of one's homeland. The heart pertains to level 2 need for platonic family-friend relationships. We, of course, don't know the complete circumstances of Dora's young life at this point, but clues are given. Her parents had a loveless relationship with potential sexual abuse from the neighboring husband. Sorry, let me get it up. So this is all taken from Wikipedia. Dora lived with her parents when, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading that, in a loveless marriage, but one which took place in close concert with another couple. So I'm having a hard time reading. I'm sorry, I apologize. Dora recounted 2 dreams to Sigmund Freud. I'm going to just move my camera up here. There is a house, the dream number 1, there was a house on fire. My father was standing beside me and woke me up. I dressed quickly. Mother wanted to stop and save her jewel case, but father said, I refuse to let myself and my 2 children be burnt for the sake of a jewel case. We hurried downstairs, and as soon as I was outside, I woke up. The second dream is substantially longer. I was walking about in a town which I did not know. I saw streets and squares which were strange to me. Then I came to a house where I lived with my. Then I came to a house where I lived, went into my room, and found a letter from mother lying there. She wrote saying that as I had left home without my parents' knowledge, she had not wished to write me to say father was ill. Now he is dead. And if you like, you can come. I then went to the station and asked about it 100 times. Where is the station? I always got the answer, 5 minutes. I then saw a thick wood before me, which I went into, and there I asked a man whom I met. He told me 2.5 hours more. He offered to accompany me, but I refused and went alone. I saw the station in front of me and could not reach it. At the same time, I had an unusual feeling of anxiety that one has in dreams when one cannot move forward. Then I was at home. I must have been traveling in the meantime, but I knew nothing about that. I walked into the porter's lodge and inquired for our flat. The maidservant opened the door to me and replied that mother and the others were already at the cemetery. Okay, these 2 dreams represent dissatisfaction and unpleasantness in Dora's young life. There is expressed uncertainty in her level 1 human need lung for material possession and the establishment of homeland represented in the strange town, her mother's jewel box, her house, the elusive station, and the learning of her father's death, and the mother and the others at the cemetery. It is important to note that friends and family also make up one's part of their community, which is part of a homeland. The loss of such people can affect the lung, triggering grief and sadness. We can be grief-stricken when we lose a part of our homeland. The heart level relationship is expressed when one understands that Dora's parents were in a loveless relationship. They did not pay attention to her and love Dora's, her father did not believe her side of the sexual abuse story. So Dora's father, she accused her neighbor of sexual abuse, and her father sided with her neighbor and not with her. There appears to be a deficit dissatisfaction in both level 1 and level 2 human needs for Dora. One could almost diagnose her from these case studies with lung and heart qi deficiency in the upper jiao affecting loss of voice. According to the 5-element patterns reflected in Dora's dream, it does appear to suggest that there are psychosomatic correspondences between dreams and health. So that is Dora's dream, which I don't know if you see it. I thought I saw a lot of representation of lung, level 1 human needs, and level 2 heart, which caused aphonia, loss of voice, which we would diagnose as a lung and heart qi deficiency. So I don't know if you see things the same way I do, but I think that's going to finish this presentation. And I just want to thank you all very much. And I want to thank you again, Michael Max, for providing Qiological in this wonderful program, this exciting summertime Saam Acupuncture Summer Zoom Fest Chautauqua event. And I'm looking forward to seeing the other presenters in the upcoming presentations. I just posted a link to my books again in the chat box. So why don't you take it away, Michael?
Evan, wow. Thank you. This has been incredible. You know, again, as I said in the beginning, I think many of us have been drawn to Chinese medicine because of the mind, body, spirit connection. I think many of us have interests in all the stuff that you've been talking about. You've clearly spent a lot of time considering how the psychological world interfaces with Saam and the organs. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for your work, for bringing it to all of us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I want to remind you that the recording will be available, ideally within 24 hours, technical issues notwithstanding. And we'll be back here together again next Tuesday. Evan's got a website. You can always visit him there. And thanks, everybody, for all of this. And we'll see you again soon.